so much. Yeah, I'm quite proud of it.
Um, I feel like I really learned a lot watching this film because obviously it's a documentary, but you have a way of telling the story that's both illuminating and revelatory. Are you a professor who's a filmmaker or a filmmaker who's a professor?
Oh, I'm just a horse trainer that really loves wildlife and got into film.
Um, So the film is narrated by Quanah Chasing Horse, and she's got a perfect voice for a documentary. It's very soothing, but very illuminating. How did you hook up with her?
Yeah, I think Quanah gave, in my opinion, one of the strongest narration performances for a wildlife movie in wildlife filmmaking history. How that came to be is I began the pre-production process for the American Southwest, and I'm a white dude from Amarillo, and I don't have any like native ancestry, and I've always been intimidated to tell any of those stories or to incorporate any native folks into our productions because I didn't want to ruin it or culturally appropriate or do anything like that. And I met Dr. Lynn Nessifer, producer Lynn Nessifer, with Natives Outdoors, actually at a film festival. He was giving a speech about how to incorporate native storylines respectfully. And it was a wonderful presentation that he gave. So I went up and asked him afterwards, we're making this film about wildlife in the Southwest. Obviously, people have been living out there for 30,000 years. We want to incorporate a storyline, but we don't know how to do it well. And he said, I'll hold your hand, hire us. And that's what we did. And it led to one of the most wonderful partnerships of my professional career in partnering with Natives Outdoors on several sequences with the cinematography and then, you know, weaving in this indigenous storyline into the script. And then, the big thing is Lynn and his team approached Quanah for the narration performance. And she just did a phenomenal job, not only with the delivery of the narration, but also making it her own and receiving the script and making some changes and make it something that was authentic to her.
What is the difficulty level of getting some of the shots we see in this film? In particular, the male bull elk who are in a rutting ritual, and the shots where the rattlesnake is giving birth. Did you have those cameras placed ahead of time, remote control, or how do you get that close to the snake? They're
So
dangerous.
each so each scene required different techniques and a lot of time. The jaguar footage took 8 months. The elk fighting footage took five cameramen living with some elk for like 3 weeks. The condor sequence, I think we had about 80 days of a cinematographer waiting for the condor to take flight and filming its parents coming in and out. So we spent a lot of time in the woods watching wildlife, and that was the greatest part of the whole experience is, the time that we get to spend with the animals and with the land and really feeling it and being the translators of those animals and of that landscape to the audience. That's really our job.
The rattlesnakes, how close can you actually get to them with the camera?
So the rattlesnake sequence we filmed with a herpetologist by the name of Mojave Mike Cardwell, based out of Tucson, and he studies the hemotoxin, neurotoxin percentages discrepancy within the species across their distribution. So he knows Mojave rattlesnakes really well. He has several venomous snakes that live inside of his house that are obviously in tanks, but they're pretty desensitized. And he's doing ongoing research on the rattlesnakes. So we were able to utilize not only the snakes that he was working with, but also his expertise to film the rattlesnake scene. And we pretty much set up like a speed dating contest between the female and male rattlesnakes. And once we found a match, we were able to film, that whole courtship behavior of how they impress each other. And then obviously one of the females successfully gave birth to some snakelets as well, which is a creepily amazing scene.
There's some really good music cues in the film. Were you using found music, or was this all composed? And in particular, the scenes in Death Valley, for instance, had a real Sergio Leone feel. Once Upon a Time in the West, and then also there was in the sequence with the salmon flies. Uh, we see them being stalked by baby ducks and gophers, and it's kind of like a comical, almost Looney Tunes kind of score. How did you go about getting the music for this?
So during the edit, we would use temp music of other cues that we really like the vibe of. And then once we get to the picture lock of the movie, we then send the picture to our composer, whose name is Noah Sirota. And he lives in LA, but he does a lot of music writing in the Southwest. So he actually went to Rocky Mountain National Park. He's been to Grand Canyon, and he tried to write music specific to that different ecoregion that the sequence is happening. And he used Central American percussion, he used woodwinds, he used like some Spanish guitar, and tried to give it a very Southwestern vibe to the musical score. And I think he crushed it. I think the music is absolutely beautiful and really carries each of the sequences well.
How difficult is it to get permission to shoot inside of a kiva? I mean, I know a lot of national parks, you're not actually allowed inside of some of the structures. Well, what are the requirements for filming something like that?
So for the Bears Ear sequence, we actually worked with the Bears Ears Intertribal Council for identifying locations that are appropriate to film. And then also we worked with the Navajo Nation on locating some different sites that, were appropriate to film. And Lynn at Natives Outdoors, the producer, he has, you know, ancestry that goes back in that region uh, for time immemorial, for thousands of years. So he's got all sorts of contacts there within the Navajo Nation that kind of identified the ideal sites for us to film. And then they conducted the cinematography for that Bears Ear scene. So we definitely used, Natives Outdoors expertise and cinematographers to tell the Bears Ear story, both within the script as well as the shooting locations.
And there are some absolutely stunningly beautiful shots of rainbows at different parts along the Colorado River. Was that like a plan B? Like if there's ever a rainbow while you're shooting, stop everything and let's get the rainbow?
No, I think that's just a function of time. I mean, any cinematographer in the world sees a rainbow, they're gonna film it. So we just wound up getting some great rainbows, and they kind of became their own little motif in the movie. It's the sanctity of water right there.
How far south have condors been sighted? Because I could have sworn I saw a couple of condors flying in Big Bend National Park like 25 years ago.
So that would be unusual for condors to be in Big Bend on the verge of impossible 25 years ago. And the only reason why I see that is because condors almost went extinct in the 80s. There was only like 22 birds left in the world, the California condor species. And then the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and a bunch of NGO partners, they actually captured those individuals and began a captive breeding program. And today there's several hundred condors. There is a population in Mexico in the Baja Peninsula. And then the population that we did our filming on was there in the Vermilion Cliff, so around the Grand Canyon. So I think it would be pretty unusual slash very unlikely to have witnessed a condor in Big Bend 25 years ago.
Um,
Maybe it was an extremely lost Andean condor from South America.
no, yeah, because you remember something like that, and I've been to Big Bend several times and had never seen anything, and they were definitely bigger than vultures or eagles. But again, I don't have any photographic proof, and the memory can play tricks on you. Who knows what you see when it's just beautiful out there.
It is. Yeah, I love Big Bend.
Um, so the apex cat of the Americas, the jaguar. There was a short film attached to the screener, the Jaguar del Cilio. Are you working on multiple projects at the same time, or was that a film that you produced? It's a short film.
So we produced a short film in Tamaulipas, Mexico, like 5 years ago about jaguars down there, but that is totally unrelated to
Okay.
this film, The American Southwest. But yeah, I mean, anytime I get a Jaguar chance to make a movie, I'm gonna take
Yeah.
it.
Um, so in 2026, the Colorado River Compact, which was established 100 years ago, will expire. What are the important talking points about the renegotiation of this pact?
Sure. So a little clarification. The compact isn't going to expire, but the river's management will be renegotiated between the states.
Okay.
So the Colorado River currently is so dammed and diverted and exhausted and utilized for irrigation and to create, vegetables that are exported as well as, used internally here within the country that the river goes completely dry. It is drained dry. A river that has flowed to the sea for 6 million years no longer reaches the sea because it is entirely consumed. And to me, that is just crazy that that's even acceptable or has become standardized that we can drain a river dry. So, a big push that we're doing with the film and with our conservation partner, American Rivers, is trying to advocate for river management that still allows, economies and agriculture and tourism and cities and all of that stuff to thrive, but to also manage it in a way where some of the water is dedicated for the river's health. And I think it benefits us too. That way we can have better fishing and more water to float on that's going to increase tourism as well as just better lifestyle. Like none of us want to live in a deserted, apocalyptic desert. Like all of us love rivers. And I think that there's a lot of opportunity within the 2026 renegotiation to improve the river's management. And some of it's big, like we should dedicate flows to the river delta to restore a wetland. But other stuff is just a change in practices, like, managing reservoirs in a way that replicates the natural river's flow that is going to allow for, better aquatic insects, which is going to allow for more fish and better fishing. And then, that equates to more tourism and better local economies. So like when the natural world thrives, so do we. And there's a lot of opportunity for improvement within the Colorado River Basin.
And you will be introducing the American Southwest at the River Oaks Theater in Houston on the evening of Friday, September 12th. Any comments on that?
Yep. So please come join us Friday, September 12th at the River Oaks Theater in Houston. We're going to do a Q&A along with Matt Rice for American Rivers. And we're going to dive into what Texas can learn from the Southwest and how not to manage our rivers the way that they did. And, Texas is unique, but we're not in a pickle like they are. We have a lot more water. We have a lot more opportunities to manage our river better, and a lot of things we can learn from the Colorado River Basin. So please, if you're there in Houston, come watch the film September 12th at the River Oaks Theater, and we'll dive into a Q&A and have a good time.
Thank you very much, Ben Masters, the director of American Southwest. There's it's kind of off topic, so it isn't really part of the interview, but I have to ask you because you obviously have spent time in the Grand Canyon, which I have visited several times. Of course, I was crushed to find out about the North Rim and the Bridie statue, which I have been near so many times. But okay, so you hear these stories about how the Smithsonian has closed off areas of the Grand Canyon because they found something in caves and they don't want the average tourist to go near that. Is that something that's just based on a hoax from a newspaper story that's 100 years old? Or are there actual areas that are off limits in the Grand Canyon?
I don't know the particulars to that, but I do know that one of the biggest problems that they have with understanding archaeological sites is looting. And they'll have a site that may offer clues to how people lived thousands of years ago, where it may contain pottery, it may contain um, graves, or very religious objects, and that's the primary reason of why the Park Service will close down a site, is they're trying to better understand it, or it's of extreme cultural significance and they just don't want people in there like looting graves. And then also, quite frankly, the amount of vandalism that happens on Native American artwork sites is truly disgusting.
Again, thank you very much for your time, Ben. It's a pleasure watching this film. I watched it twice. I could easily watch it a third time. You just get into the flow. Best of luck with this rolling out this film.
That's awesome, Michael. I appreciate it. I'm cautiously optimistic it'll do well, and we'll find out soon. We'll find out Friday.
Okay.
So the movie is in theaters nationwide on, or not nationwide, but region wide on Friday.
Okay. Thanks again.
All right, thank you.
Okay.